Good evening, San Diego. I'm Chief Meteorologist Carlene Chavis, and thank you for tuning in for your CBS 8 Plus weather update. Now, we did have a tsunami alert that went into effect. Now, initially, it was a watch. That meant the potential was there after we had an 8.8 magnitude earthquake that took place right there on the Russian Peninsula. Now, here's the thing. Earlier, it was about an 8.7, so it could change in magnitude. We've already seen that change as it has been upgraded to about an 8.8. So we are talking about the impacts that are going to be felt when it does come to this. They could be minor, they could be more severe. We have some areas like Hawaii that are under tsunami warning. Sirens have already started to go off. For us here along the West Coast, and more specifically here in San Diego County, we had a watch. That meant the potential of seeing some impacts from this change into an advisory. That means those impacts are expected. So that's going to go all the way until Friday at 6:27 Pacific Standard Time. So as we take a closer look at the details when it does come to this tsunami advisory, more expansive view across the west. Impacts estimated start time could be around 11:55 tonight for Oregon, making our way right down the west coast, talking about Monterey, California, about 15 minutes after midnight. LA Harbor could see some impacts starting about 5 minutes after 1, and for us here locally, about 1:15 in the morning. Now, when we talk about impacts, that means that things could start to deteriorate around that time. We saw people out there along the coastline because it was a beautiful summer day here in San Diego County. Well, they still have some time. People are now starting to get those alerts, and so once we get to that time frame closer to the 1 o'clock hour, that's when things could start to deteriorate. These are estimated impact start times for us here locally. I also want to specify that just because you're seeing just a few locations, that does not mean that these would be the only locations to actually have some of those impacts. It would be along our coastline. It's just that the National Weather Service went ahead and picked a couple of the piers to really specify when we could start to see some of that activity. So once again, deterioration could start. We could start to see some of those impacts around 1:15 in the morning. So this is something we are keeping a close eye on when it does come to this advisory. So with this advisory, it means tsunami capable of producing strong strong currents as well as waves. You're talking about the impacts being in or near the water. Widespread inundation is not expected. So when you look at the actual graphic that also shows the 805, also shows Mission Valley, I've been seeing people send me messages asking, is it going to impact me even though I'm not near the coast? Well, those chances are very slim to none. We are focusing more so on the water and very near the water, so the coastal communities. And also, some people have been asking, why until Friday? It's Tuesday night. Well, that's because that first wave may not be the strongest. And so we could start to have those impacts, that time frame as mentioned around 1:15 in the morning, but we could continue to see some of those impacts all the way until Friday, and that would be Friday evening around 6:27. Focusing now when it comes to our weather update, we have an area of high pressure that is still sitting just towards the east of us and an area of low pressure that's in the Gulf of Alaska. These two fixtures are not going to be moving by much. As a result, that leads to temperatures that will be slightly warmer by tomorrow. That just brings us more so into the seasonal range, and then we back off once we get past that point for Thursday and Friday. But then that area of high pressure becomes a little bit more expansive across the west, and that's going to be by the weekend. So then temperatures would respond by warming up into the start of our weekend. When we were looking at forecast models yesterday, it was suggesting the chance of seeing some of that monsoonal moisture. They backed off a little bit more because that area of high pressure is going to be a little bit closer than the Four Corners, which would have open the door for that monsoonal moisture, but it looks to actually cut it off. So for us, what we're mainly going to be focusing on is the warm up that's going to be in store as we hit the weekend forecast. For your overnight lows, still widespread in those 50s and 60s. You're looking at 70s for the desert. You get to highs tomorrow. Most of those low 90s are going to be east of the 15. This is in the near seasonal range for this time of the year. 90 degrees is the average high across the inland valleys. You're looking at 90 for Alpine, 91 degrees for El Cajon. You still have those 70s right there along the North County coastline, 75 degrees for downtown and 80 degrees for Chula Vista. Your 70s will stick around for the coast all the way into next week. There's that little bit of a slip as that trough kind of wins out a little bit by the second half of this work week, but then by the weekend we start to have temperatures responding to that area of high pressure moving in again. It's just a tug of war we've been talking about since last week that will continue. You're looking at 91 degrees for inland valleys tomorrow, so staying in those 90s mainly east of the 15. A minor slip in temperatures by Thursday and Friday before those temperatures come right back again with those widespread 90s by Saturday. When we look at the forecast for the mountains, you have the 80s all the way through Friday in response to that area of high pressure because it's coming in from the east. So the mountains and the desert feeling more of that heat. You get back to widespread 90s for the mountains over the weekend. 108 to 109 next couple of days for the desert is near seasonal. You go a little bit warmer than that to 111 by Sunday, and then those temperatures get closer to seasonal again by the start of next week. We will continue to keep you updated when it does come to this tsunami advisory, as well as your weather forecasts as we go all the way into tonight. Thanks for tuning in.